Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Robin Parker. I'd like to thank you for coming out today and welcome you to the historic Old Mill District. If you were here 10 years ago, you would know that the Old Mill was a dilapidated old lumber mill. It had been abandoned years ago and left to crumble. There were old rusted pieces of equipment, ramshackle buildings, and piles of debris everywhere. The mill had become an obsolete remnant of the past. It was a place that had served its purpose, but it was no longer needed. In fact, it had become a dangerous place because of all the junk that was laying around. Children were kept out so they wouldn't hurt themselves, and in spite of the riverfront view, it was not an attractive part of town. But then came the renovations. Workers came in and started clearing the area, carting away the debris, cutting down the overgrown weeds, and tearing down the unsafe structures. New and modern features were added to the sturdy foundations that remained. Existing structures that were able to be saved were put to new use and found new life. The entire area was made anew. It was a complete rejuvenation of an area that had grown old and outdated, an area that had become irrelevant and mostly ignored by the people. Today, the Old Mill is a mecca for shopping, entertainment, and activity. Businesses have moved in, creating jobs and reviving the local economy, and in the process, prospering from the renovations that have happened here. The Old Mill, the new Old Mill, offers places for business, work, and play, and it's a safe place again. There are areas for social gatherings, civic functions, and even cultural events. It has been transformed into a jewel in Ben's crown of attractions, and the people in town have a sense of pride in what it's become. It seems to me that the Senate body is on a course similar to the Old Mill. The Senate has become a monolith, representing old ideals and ways, full of stoic remnants of the past that have become outdated or simply no longer relevant. The Senate body has become detached from the American people. We need a Senate to reflect the values and ideals that made this country great, to protect our rights, our freedoms, and our pursuit of happiness. We need a Senate that will work for the American people, not against us. One that is more interested in the success of our nation than in the success of their own party. I say it's time to renovate the Senate, to make it vibrant, useful, and relevant again. It's time to bring the Senate into the 21st century, to make it more contemporary. New ideas, new values, and new faces. We need a revival of our values and perspectives in the Senate, and that must include the principles of our constitutional foundation. We need a rejuvenation of the Senate body, a revival of our values and morals. We need to replace the outdated perspectives of the past with the fresh, young perspectives of the present. Just as we've seen here in the Old Mill area, we need to shake off the dust and discard the rusty old junk, make room for a more dynamic and relevant Senate, one that can relate to the challenges of our way of modern life. This is an age of social networking, instant communications, new and innovative technologies, and sharing of information globally. We need representation in the Senate that can relate to our world today. The capacity to craft new laws and legislation which are pertinent to our modern society requires the ability to adapt to new technologies and to the sharing of new ideas and concepts without regard to whose side these ideas came from. We need to cast aside those who would stand in the way of fair and equal representation. We need a Senate to prepare for the future, to create legislation and regulations that will allow our great nation to prosper while laying the foundation for the next century. The future needs of our country require a revival of the Senate now. Oregonians need a balanced perspective, not just red or blue, but every angle so we can craft a successful future. We need equal representation for all of the people to encourage constructive debate as well as to formulate creative solutions for our recovery. We need open and honest communication to foster cooperation throughout the Senate so that we can focus our attention on the recovery of our nation. We can't approach government as if it were a football game, one side pitted against the other with only one possible winner. Because in reality, that's when everybody loses. We need to be working together, the youngest and the oldest, the left and the right, the highest and the lowest in our society, so that we all succeed together. I represent that middle ground between young and old. I know where we've been and how we got here. I know what it's like to be less privileged and to need help putting food on the table. I also know what it takes to succeed, to build a business and raise a family, to go to church and to pay my bills. I have a logical approach to life, and unlike some people I know, I use common sense. I've made a career of talking to people, listening to their needs, gathering the requirements that will make their life better, and then translating those needs into concrete, real-world solutions. Isn't that exactly what our Senate is supposed to do for us? My name is Robin Parker. I'm just an ordinary person with real-world values, just like all of you. And that's why I'm best suited to represent you, because I share your needs, your values, and your experiences. I can relate to the modern world, where we are now, and even the direction we're headed. I believe I can be a catalyst for the rejuvenation of our government. That's why I'm a candidate to represent you as your United States Senator. But why should you vote for me? I don't have any experience in Washington, D.C., and I don't know anybody in the Senate, and I can assure you they don't respond to my emails. Some people would even argue that I don't know how things are done, that I'm not familiar with the customs and the ceremony that are followed in the Senate. Well, I may not know how things are supposed to be done, but that just means I can bring new ideas and solutions to bear for the good of the American people, without the stigma and limitations of how things are supposed to have been done. And no, I'm afraid I don't know anybody in Washington, but that just means I don't owe anybody in Washington. What I do know is that the people in Washington are supposed to represent us, our values and our morals, and our needs and our best interests fairly and equally. But these are dire times in the world, and I have no delusion that Americans aren't suffering every day. We need to respond to the needs of the people who are down and out, and help them provide for themselves and their families while our economy recovers and opportunity returns. We need to foster businesses, removing the roadblocks to their growth so they can create more jobs. American companies need help getting the finances they need to increase production so there are more products on the shelves that Americans need. America needs to fund the projects that put more boots on the ground, more shovels in the dirt, that put more Americans back to work. We need to find creative and innovative ways to help every American business expand and create new jobs. We might even need to formulate incentives to business owners to encourage them to reinvest more of their profits into the growth of their business and the future of their employees. Our stimulus dollars need to be spent right here on American soil, effectively and efficiently, to provide a foundation for our recovery. We need to do more than just throw money at our financial problems. We need to be smart and proactive about how we're spending our money. Yes, we do need to consider the needs of Wall Street and Main Street, but more importantly, we need to consider the needs of Oak Street and First Street and the street where you live. Make sure that help gets there as well, because bottom line is, that's where it's needed the most.